For us, it's kind of the same story. We have better effort on the road. There's some things that we could clean up that we'll work on and try and clean up. So we're better the next opportunity to get on the road. But we need to play with the same effort and intensity level that we played with on Saturday. We need to do the same thing again here tomorrow against Michigan. So another quality opponent, another opponent coming off of a loss right before we play them. So we're getting used to it, but we have to play. Like everything that we focus on and talk about, it starts with us and how we play, and more discipline, more focus, more intensity for 40 minutes, and we need to start this game the right way against these guys. A really, really talented opponent in Michigan tomorrow.
Micah, could you talk about the pluses and minuses, if there are any, of playing Greg at that 5 position, because it looked like he gave you some good minutes? And could you give us an update on Giovanni, because we haven't seen him in a couple games?
Yep. For Greg, I think he's, we try and use his quickness a little bit, when he's playing against bigger guys, when he's playing the 5 some. I think he helps us by spacing the floor and in that way, being able to attack off the dribble. He hasn't done it much, but his ability to attack off the dribble and then play in that way. And, now he's a little undersized, playing some different guys in the post, but that's something that we can make up for in other areas. So, he just gives us a different dimension, and really that's almost like why you haven't seen Giovanni. Like, Greg's actually played great the last 2 games for us, and we don't just if somebody's playing good, I'm gonna stick with him. So nothing that Giovanni's doing or not doing or anything else. It's just John is the anchor of our team defensively and what he does on the offensive glass, and then Greg and how he's played here at home against Iowa, and then what he did on the road, making shots, being able to orchestrate our offense and everything else. It's just hard to find time for everybody.
Micah, you mentioned playing another team coming off a loss. How does that impact things from a mentality standpoint from what you see in opponents, and how does that impact you guys too, obviously coming off a loss of your own?
Yeah, it doesn't really impact us at all. Like, I just keep saying it, it's like a fantastic stat that it just keeps happening. Like, it doesn't really affect us, right? We prepare the same way each and every game, and when somebody loses, they're on high alert a little bit more. Like, whatever hurt them, right? They're probably going to be more focused on that coming out of that game. So they're maybe in the area where you feel like, hey, they're going to be really amped up in this area. But overall, most people, you get their best shot. And, same way for us. Like, we just came off a loss. We should be excited to play. Like, we should be fired up to get back out there and, correct what we did wrong. Like, play in front of our fans and hopefully get the energy from those guys to help, push us forward in this game and give us what we need. So it's the same on both sides. I just like to say it, humor myself.
This time of year, and really all season, when you're traveling a lot, your practices maybe get shorter, your recovery, you've got a lot of games. Does the team get better from actually getting better at basketball? Do the players actually get better at basketball, or do you get better at minimizing mistakes and sort of getting better at execution?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. Like, as much as you can focus on guys individually, that's what you want to do. Like, we've done that as we shorten practice. We do a little more breakdown stuff where they can kind of key in on certain areas, but key in on areas to make them better. I feel like if we're doing individual workout stuff throughout the season, like, your guys are getting better. Like, if your players are getting better individually, your team's getting better. Obviously, it has to. Now putting them in the best spot to use those skills. So, I think you see a little bit more detail, a little bit more focus. Guys they better understand what you're trying to do, how to attack people. Like, they've seen a lot of different defenses now, right? There's nothing that anybody could probably throw at us that we haven't seen yet so far this season. So they're pretty comfortable in attacking really almost anything. So you start to see that comfort level there. So the main thing now is just like, guys are banged up. Everybody in America is banged up because you may have these short breaks or you may have quick turnaround games. So you have to manage that in terms of keeping guys healthy, keeping them fresh, and getting them to the games, as well as continuing to make them better as individual players.
And how do you kind of balance, especially when you want to have older teams? A guy like Seth has played a lot of basketball. He's done a good job recently driving to the rim, but that's not always been his thing. How do you balance sort of not reinventing a guy, but sort of developing him later in his career versus, a guy that might come in as a freshman and you say, we've got all sorts of things we can do with you between now and graduation?
Yeah, that's, part of what I was talking about when we, continue to work with guys on different things in different areas. And, no matter if you're here for 4 years or you're here for 1 year, whatever it may be, I gave these guys a promise. I'm going to get them better. I'm going to help them become better players. And so we work with it. And Coach Fairley's done a good job with Seth at really helping him read closeouts and learn how to attack closeouts in the right way. And then when you attack it, what's the next thing? What's the next phase from there? And, I think he's constantly growing in that area. But we spend a good amount of time doing it. And the more reps you get, the better you get. And, as you keep going, I think they're growing as a player. I think, you're seeing him take steps and growing as a player.
Understanding that it's over now, what happened with the travel on Friday, Saturday? And is that something you have a plan B for? At what point did you give up? How did you approach that?
It was Nick's fault. Right?
Is he fired or?
Nah, we're gonna keep him. But the guy thought the game was Sunday. Had the stuff scheduled different times. We actually hats off to Nick because he had to deal with all of it, right? All the phone calls, all the changes, everything that happened. And I think the snowstorm throughout the Midwest just wreaked havoc on everybody last week. And, a lot of us use kind of that same charter company. And, it caused problems with everybody. The one thing, our guys were good. We practiced earlier on Friday here. And, we were ready for a certain time, departure time. It got moved. We talked to them about it. Hey, here's what's next. Here's our time. Here's when we're going to leave. It got changed. They were flexible. They were fine with what we did. And, the one thing you can't do is you can't almost create a built-in excuse for them, right? You have to be ready to just play no matter what happens. And we didn't get a chance to do it this year, but one of the reasons why I wanted to do one of those secret scrimmages, we were going to play it. One of those secret scrimmages. We were just going to get on the bus the day of and just drive down there and ball out, right? Because something might happen during the season just like this, and hey, we've done this before. This is nothing new. So you got to be almost prepared for anything. And our guys did a great job of not panicking, just going through a normal day. And jumped on the plane, flew there, got off, ate, stretched, then went and played. And it's probably almost better because they have to listen to me less, right? And you got to listen to me talk all the time. I don't have to listen to them talk. We can just go play, and they probably enjoyed it a lot more. But I was just proud that we didn't go in with any excuses, and no matter what happens, if we're on the way to the game and the bus breaks down, then let's walk to the game and let's play. We're gonna do whatever it takes to be ready to go. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
All right.
Micah, kind of along those lines of the guys not having to hear you talk as much. After the past 2 games, you've mentioned not really having to say much pregame, I think, except for Iowa and Wisconsin. I mean, is that the product of a veteran team? Is it just where the team is right now? How do you kind of gauge, how much, to kind of do that pregame?
Yeah. like what it takes to win shouldn't change. Like the plan shouldn't change. Like there might be small tweaks in our game plan, but like every single time you step on the floor, like, I write things up on the board. It pretty much says the same exact thing. Like, dominate defensively, right? Be a really tough team to score on. Take great shots. Take the best shot for Penn State, right? Don't turn the ball over. Be boss with the ball. Like, dominate effort plays. Like, that's what winning basketball is. We should do that no matter if we're playing Wisconsin or we're playing Wisconsin-Platteville. We need to be able to do that. And if they don't know that by this point in time of the season, then I haven't done a very good job of explaining what good basketball is. So, preparing for it. There might be tweaks in the game plan that we need to be ready for, but like this carries over every single game, and that's why I said like there's not like they're going to be fired up, ready to play, and if you just do these 4 things, you give yourself a chance each and every time.
Hey, Micah. I guess, we've talked a lot about Seth and his defending. When you got here, what helped you identify Seth as a guy who could do this defensively? And, we've talked a lot about buy-in and how he's done that, but I'd assume that there's other things that he's improved on, too, that have allowed him to make this jump. I'm just wondering what some of those are.
Yeah, I think, what stands out is probably his athletic ability. Just, he's a guy that can, he's strong, he's fast, he can jump. Like, he's got a lot of tools that, you're able to work with. Now, his discipline's been really good in terms of he hasn't really fouled guys a lot. I'd say that, knock on wood. But he hasn't sent. That was one thing we talked about with Johnny Davis. Don't send him to the foul line, right? And I don't think he shot a free throw the other night. So, like, listening and taking small parts of game plans, knowing like what guys like to do, where they like to get to their shots, like all those things are helpful. I think him being able to play in the league for a couple years now, he's a little kind of familiar with different systems or maybe different people. I think those have helped him as well, and then he's bought into his role, like in terms of we didn't go into the season being like, hey Seth, you need to be this kind of dominant stopper for us. He's kind of grown into it now. Like, he believes in himself, he believes in his abilities, and he believes in like following the game plan, and like things are working out for him. So there's still areas where he can get better too. Like, he's definitely not a finished product, but he's playing at maximum effort on the defensive end, and he's been really good on that end, and he's been really good. He's been at his best against the best players, and that's some people shy away from those challenges, and he's really embraced them.
Micah, Dallion's been in the starting lineup 2 games in a row now. Is he sort of at the point where he's solidifying that as more than just a matchup-based thing, and how does he open things up as a shot creator?
Yeah, just he's pretty fearless out there in terms of he's not really scared to take shots, and he makes shots. So those are the things, like he's had like the biggest, I think, area of growth from the start of the season to now. He's still a freshman, right? I don't know, without going back and looking at stats, I don't know how many games he played last year, but not very many. It was probably a handful. Right, he didn't really have a season last year. It's taken him time to learn everything we want to do defensively. And he's the youngest of the group in terms of, he and Caleb, in terms of the guys that play in college basketball. So, there's things where older guys have seen some stuff or guarded it or been through it. They understand, like, hey, this is what the other team's trying to do. It's still new. It's still fresh for him. So, he may make mistakes here and there, but he's trying to do what we ask him to do. He's growing in that area, and I think he's becoming a better defender. I think, as we keep going, that's where you'll see the biggest growth from him. But, I love his shooting ability, and I love his speed and being able to cut and his gravity on cuts gets other people open. So that's why, he's kind of stepped into the role that he has, and the matchup dictates. Like, I'd love to play him more, but we're playing like every team we play so old, right? Like, Dalian was probably just coming out of middle school when Brad Davidson started playing, right? So like, there's a wisdom factor there that, like, it's hard to put him on a guy like Brad Davidson, Jordan Bohannon, like guys, Devontae Jones, guys that have been in Eli Brooks, like guys that have been in college basketball 5-6 years, and he's played. This is really his first season. It slows things down. The game's still moving really fast for him. It is moving really slow for those other guys. So that's where I think you'll see the biggest growth, from the rest of the season and throughout the rest of his time here.
Last question.
Coach, you guys have had a lot of really close games against some ranked teams this year. You had LSU, Purdue this past weekend against Wisconsin, and any nights like you guys can compete with some of the best teams. What's the key for you guys to pull these games out and finish them at the end?
Yeah, I was a little disappointed with our guys. I didn't think, and you say this, and they scored 51 points, but like we should have held them below that. There were mistakes that we made, game plan mistakes that we made that they ended up scoring on where, like, they shouldn't have cracked 50. And I didn't think we played particularly well offensively, especially in the first half. So really trying to put together a complete game on both ends the entire time. We've played better. It's kind of fluctuated, right? Our offense has played better some games it hasn't. It's also a factor of playing in our league and playing really good defensive teams. So we got to put it all together. We need the same defensive effort that we had at Wisconsin with the offense that we played against Purdue or Iowa, and we need to put it all together at the same time to come up with some of those wins. Like, we've given ourselves a chance, but now we got to finish. We got to finish the job, and we got to win some of these games.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Micah.